Imagine a company that controls a third of its entire industry, a company that pulls in over $10 billion a year, a company with a product so desirable, people will wait a decade just for the privilege of buying one. Now, imagine that this exact same company has no public shareholders, no billionaire owner, and absolutely zero requirement to ever tell the public how much money it actually makes. You might think, this sounds like an illegal cartel or a shadow corporation operating outside the law. But it isn't. It is the most famous luxury brand on the face of the earth. Rolex. Every single year, millions of people lust after these watches. They are the ultimate symbols of wealth, of power, of making it. But behind the gold and the diamonds and the impossible wait lists lies a massive secret, a corporate structure so bizarre, so ruthlessly brilliant, that it makes modern tech monopolies look like absolute amateurs. Rolex, the ultimate symbol of capitalism, is not a normal company. It is entirely owned by a registered charity. Yes, a charity. But this isn't about saving the whales or feeding the hungry, though they do some of that. This is about control. Total, undeniable control. Rolex has engineered a corporate ghost system. A system where a hyper-profitable commercial juggernaut hides behind the legal shield of a silent, untaxed, charitable trust. This shield grants them unparalleled secrecy, massive tax optimization, and the absolute power to control global supply without ever answering to a single shareholder. This is how you build an empire that cannot be killed. And to understand how they pulled off the ultimate magic trick, we have to go back to a tragedy that changed the watch world forever. The year is 1944. The world is at war. But in Geneva, Switzerland, Hans Wilsdorf is fighting a much more personal battle. Hans Wilsdorf is the brilliant founder of Rolex. He was an orphan from Bavaria who built the company from nothing. He turned a tiny London office into a global powerhouse. He invented the waterproof watch. He put a Rolex on the wrist of a woman swimming the English Channel just to prove his engineering was flawless. He was a genius, but all the success in the world couldn't save his wife. In 1944, Florence Wilsdorf died. Hans and Florence had no children. He was completely, utterly alone, and the company they built together was literally the only thing he had left. Most men would have sold the business, cashed out, and faded away. But Hans did something entirely different. He was terrified that after he died, greedy investors would carve up his life's work. He knew that if Rolex went public, shareholders would demand cheaper parts, faster production. They would dilute the brand to make a quick buck, so he built a fortress. In 1945, he created a private Swiss entity called the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation. And when Hans died in 1960, he left his entire fortune and 100% of Rolex to this exact foundation. From that day forward, no single human being has ever owned Rolex. It belongs exclusively to the foundation. And by Swiss law, a foundation isn't a person. It has no shareholders. It has no equity to liquidate, meaning Rolex can never be sold. It can never go public, and it can never be broken apart. Hans built this out of severe grief, but what he accidentally created was the sharpest competitive weapon in modern business history, a meta-moat, an armor so thick that no competitor can ever pierce it. Because while rival watchmakers are bleeding themselves dry, trying to appease Wall Street, Rolex is playing an entirely different game. Fast forward to today. Let's talk about how this ghost system actually makes money, because this is where the genius truly shines. Rolex SA, the company making the watches, is a standard for-profit business. They build massive factories. They hire thousands of workers. They sell over 1 million luxury watches every single year. And on that operational level, yes, they pay normal Swiss corporate taxes. But at the end of the year, when billions of dollars in pure profit are sitting in the bank, things get very interesting. In a normal company, that profit gets paid out as dividends to wealthy shareholders, and those shareholders get taxed into oblivion. But Rolex has no shareholders. So 100% of that profit gets kicked straight up the ladder. It flows directly into the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation. And because the foundation is a registered Swiss charity, the moment that money crosses the threshold, it enters a tax-exempt haven. It is an aggressive, completely legal masterclass in tax optimization. Now, the foundation does give some of its money away. They fund Swiss watchmaking schools. They support environmental programs. They donate hundreds of millions to the arts. But they do not have to tell anyone exactly how much they make or exactly how much they keep. Swiss law grants private foundations the ultimate superpower: total secrecy. Rolex has zero obligation to publish their financial data. No quarterly earnings reports, no investor calls, no public audits. Wall Street analysts spend thousands of hours trying to guess how much money Rolex actually has, but nobody knows. The vault is permanently locked. And this secrecy is exactly why Rolex can control the market like a puppet master. Think about the wait lists. If you walk into a Rolex store today and ask to buy a steel Daytona, they will literally laugh at you. You have to beg, spend thousands on jewelry you don't even want, just to get on a list. If a normal company did this, their shareholders would riot. They would scream, "Why are you leaving money on the table? Build more factories, flood the market." But Rolex answers to nobody. They don't care about quarterly growth. They don't care about short-term stock prices. In fact, in 2024 and 2025, Rolex actually cut production. While demand was skyrocketing, they deliberately made fewer watches. They prioritized scarcity over quick cash because they know that exclusivity is the most valuable currency on Earth. And no other brand can afford to do this. All other massive luxury conglomerates have to report their numbers every 3 months. If their sales drop, their stock crashes. Rolex just sits back and watches them sweat. They can afford to think in decades, while everyone else is thinking in quarters. This foundation structure isn't just a defensive shield. It is a weapon of absolute dominance. Because all that untaxed profit sitting in the foundation gives Rolex a war chest so massive they can literally buy the board. Take retail, for example. For decades, Rolex relied on third-party jewelers to sell their watches, but they hated not having complete control over the customer experience. So, what did they do? In 2023, they quietly bought Bucherer, the largest watch retailer in the entire world. In one swift move, Rolex swallowed a massive chunk of their own distribution network. They didn't need to ask investors for permission. They didn't need to issue new stock. They just opened the foundation's vault and bought it outright. They are slowly, quietly, vertically integrating the entire luxury world. Even the second-hand market is falling under their control. When Rolex realized that gray market dealers were making billions flipping their watches, they didn't just get mad. They launched their own certified pre-owned program. They basically told the market, if anyone is going to profit off a used Rolex, it is going to be us. By 2026, that pre-owned program alone was generating hundreds of millions of dollars. If that program was a separate brand, it would be one of the top 10 watchmakers in the world. And it is all feeding back into the exact same untaxable foundation. It is brilliant, it is ruthless, and it is completely untouchable. The modern luxury market is crumbling around them. Competitors are struggling with rising gold prices. The Swiss franc is too strong. The Chinese market has cratered. Other watch brands are fighting for their very lives. But Rolex now commands over 60% of the high-end watch market. Let that sink in. 60%. More than the next 5 competitors combined. All because a grieving widower in 1944 decided that his life's work shouldn't belong to a billionaire. He built a ghost system, a system that removes the ultimate weakness of every modern corporation: greed. By eliminating the greedy shareholder, Rolex achieved the ultimate paradox. They became the most ruthless capitalist machine on the planet by officially becoming a charity. They answer to no one. They are regulated by nothing, and they will outlive every single person watching this video. The crown doesn't just sit on the throne, it owns the entire kingdom.